What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're talking about Melancholia, a 2011 film by Lars Van Trier, a filmmaker that I'm not super familiar with, but I do know that he's kind of artsy-fartsy, and the same can definitely be said about this movie, which I have seen before, once, when it came out. And it's such an interesting film, because even though it's not exactly vivacious, it's still kind of captivating anyway. Let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, vivacious. Attractively lively and animated, aka sprightly, Melancholia focuses on a group of people desperately seeking happiness and meaning while their world around them is collapsing as another massive planet is hurtling towards Earth on a direct collision course. When I think about this movie, I think about the visuals. There's a ton of motionless, images that I think of, as well as just random sequences that come to mind, because, as I stated before, Lars is a very artsy-fartsy director, and Melancholia is a very artsy-fartsy movie. There's so many gloriously shot things here that make it just kind of stand out in the best possible way. It's beautiful, and almost haunting in a way, thanks to the classical musical score that you constantly hear throughout the film. And that musical score is often accompanying, several slow motion segments that just make it stand out. There's also a very deep theme on depression in this film that kind of sets in stone what Lars wanted to accomplish. That is, in the middle of a disaster where everybody's probably just going to die anyways, how would somebody who is already depressed act? Because when you're depressed, you already expect the worst. So what can something like colliding worlds do to that kind of mental state? Does it make it worse? Does it somehow act therapeutic and bring you a sense of peace? Or does it have an indifferent effect on the mind where it's like, yep, that figures. Just like in 2020, I feel like if another planet was hurtling towards Earth, we'd all sit back and say, yeah, that makes sense. Beyond that, I think it's hard not to mention the performances, particularly from Kirsten Dunst, but a few others as well. They're all really, really good. Kirsten Dunst has to not only sell depression, but fake happiness as well, and how debilitating depression can be all on its own. And I think she actually does extremely well with that. This might actually be her best performance ever. The biggest thing that I don't want to forget to say is that it gives me massive goosebumps, especially at the end of the main crescendo of the film. It really is spectacular. But as with most artsy-fartsy films, there's a massive aspect of the film that just kind of feels weird. And Melancholia often feels weird because narratively the movie doesn't really follow any sort of typical structure. It's all about the mind and how certain things can affect it, but for the most part none of the characters have any sort of individual importance plot-wise, because whether or not they were even in the movie or any others are in the movie, none of it even matters, because none of it makes any kind of difference if we already know how it'll end. And we do. The movie starts off telling you exactly how it'll end, as to not falsely give the audience a sense of mystery while watching, because Lars does not want people to, second guess or to guess what will or won't happen in the end, because that doesn't matter. He just wants a character study in the midst of a tragic oncoming disaster as a setting. Unfortunately, on the other side of that makes for some unimportant characters. There's also some strange things that happen in the movie that I don't fully understand. I know some of the things that happen in the movie are due to depression, and some of the things that happen are happening for shock appeal, but I don't know. I didn't fully understand everything that the characters did. Finally, I will say that I loved the visuals of that oncoming planet of the film, and everything regarding that, and I respect the depression and the denial that some characters go through. But during those downtime moments where nothing is happening, I was a little bit bored and I started to feel the length of the film. It's definitely a bittersweet feeling, because as a general rule, I like the film and I consider a majority of it to be made very well. But the weirdness of it makes it so that I'm not so sure I'd really want to watch it over and over again. So let's take a look at my final score. From an unbiased perspective, I did say that a lot of the stuff impressed me, especially with the BTS category, which got full points. But it was also kind of lacking in other areas, like how none of the characters really held any importance whatsoever, like how the pacing of the film kind of gets wonky because nobody's really trying to do anything. So even though you understood everything that was going on, it was still a movie that wasn't really going anywhere specifically. So it was still a bit imperfect, making my unbiased technical score surprisingly low at 66%, but it's still a movie that touches you and gives you goosebumps and is mostly just a spectacle to enjoy, making my bias score much higher at 84%. Averaging out these two scores, we come to a final score of 75%, 75 out of 100 possible stars, granting the film with a letter grade of C, which isn't terrible, but obviously it could have been a lot better if they gave these people in the movie more important roles, and if Lars actually made it a mystery. I know that he didn't want it to be a mystery, so he gave everybody the answers as to what's going to happen in the movie right offhand, but if you didn't do that, I feel like the movie would have technically been made better, as the characters would have had more purpose. Anyways, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Melancholia in the comments section down below. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this review, because there's more like it coming out every single day. And hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified when I come out with my next video, which is slated to be a ranking video covering all the Phantasm films that I've reviewed. And until then, peace!